Hey, I'm Tristan with Mahalo, and we are here at Hip Cooks in West LA, and today we are talking about stuffing, and I'm going to show you how to make it. Let's get started talking about the breadcrumbs, an important part of stuffing, of course. I've chosen today just to use sourdough, and this is one of the elements of stuffing that you can change to make your own. Sourdough is a nice basic white bread, though, that makes for great stuffing. Homemade breadcrumbs. Easily tear apart a loaf like I've done here, just in big chunks like this, and then it goes into the oven to toast them and dry them out. So you can kind of hear they're nice and dry, and they're going to absorb the butter and the broth really well. If you like more of the uniform look of breadcrumbs, you can take your loaf, grocery store loaf easily, and just take out pieces at a time and cut them into squares. And that way you can have what may be to you a traditional looking stuffing filling, and then these get toasted as well. So that is our breadcrumbs. Butter, butter, butter. Easily 1 stick of butter. Unsalted, we'll salt later. That salted butter tends to have additional saline in it. That's not the freshest, not the best choice. So if you can always stick with unsalted butter and then just know that you'll be adding butter on your own. Salt on your own. You'll be adding salt on your own. I'm gonna scrape off. You don't want to waste a thing. So 1 stick butter. Some recipes might call for 1.5. I tend to get it to about 1 stick, and we're thinking about serving for 10 to 12 people and going in a turkey that's about 12 pounds to 14 pounds. So as this melts on medium heat, let's talk about what goes into this traditional stuffing. Celery, mushrooms, onions, and then herbs of your choice. Today I had some fresh sage out of my garden, so that's what I'm choosing to use. If you don't have access to fresh herbs, you can use dry herbs just the same. And then fresh parsley was in my garden as well, so I've pre-chopped that, and that will nicely add some great color and flavor to our stuffing. So for this stuffing, I have chopped 1 onion, which is about 2 cups. And I will dump this into the butter and get that browning. Celery as well. It's good to leave those leaves on your celery stalk because these add a nice flavor. And celery is great because it adds a earthy, nutty flavor to your stuffing. So slice down the middle. Make these pieces little. Honestly, when you bite into stuffing, you don't want to taste like a big crunch of celery. So you want to make them fine and slice away into little pieces. Okay, so this is our celery here. And that is about 1 cup celery, or 4 stalks. This is really approximate. If you want to go with specific amounts, that's fine. If you don't like celery, cut back on the celery. If you really like celery, add celery. If you don't like yellow onions, use white onions. It's really all going to come out the same. Mushrooms, to add a nice nutty, meaty flavor. Keep the stalks with the mushroom because those tend to have the most flavor. The head of the mushroom has good flavor, but the stalks are pretty meaty and add that really distinct mushroom flavor. So with all that in, we want to start absorbing the butter, getting them sauteed. I'll crank up the heat a little bit now. And just stir. Let it get going. You'll start to hear it sizzle. You'll start to see the brown, the onions soften up a bit. While I wait for the mixture here in the pot to soften up, I'm going to chop some sage. So an easy way to chop sage is to layer the leaves. And this is really similar for basil too. You'll layer the leaves, stack the leaves, and then roll them up into a little roll, and then slice. Hold it and slice it down. And you end up with really nicely julienned bits of sage. For this though, we do want our pieces to be smaller, so I'll give it a brief cut across here so that the pieces are small. And you can estimate about 1.5 teaspoons of sage. Just sprinkle that in. If you really love sage, add more sage. If you don't like sage, don't use sage. You can also use thyme, rosemary, but this is what I had in my garden, so this is what I've chosen to use. Parsley, an easy chop. I'd say a couple tablespoons, and this just adds really nice flavor and color of freshness to the stuffing. With all that butter, it's nice to have a little bit of freshness with your stuffing. Okay, so I've added the breadcrumbs, the broth is ready to go, and we have one last step before we continue with our crock pot stuffing. And you know, the nice thing about crock pot stuffing is that it doesn't take up oven space. You can set the crock pot off to the side, and it cooks for 4 hours. It's something that you can get started in the morning or even the night before, and it will sit nicely in the crock pot, kind of steaming and stay moist until you're ready to serve it in the afternoon or that evening. So 1 egg is added to the crock pot stuffing. Give it a little added moisture, and I'll just quickly whisk it up with the fork so that when I dump it into the stuffing here, the yolk and white are already one. Okay. And pour it in the stuffing. And it's 1 egg. Remember, this is stuffing for about 10 people. So of course, if you double the amount, we double in the eggs. An egg works as a binder, so this is what we'll be binding this in the crock pot. Make it a little gooier. Okay. So this is our kind of our traditional or good old looking crock pot here. Easily found at a lot of kitchen supply stores. We'll be starting high for about 45 minutes. Get the heat going, and then I'll turn it down to low, and really it can be in there from 2 to 8 hours. Like I said, that's why crock pot stuffing is so great. Just slide it into the crock pot. And put the lid on the crock pot and call it good. Check it off the list, we're done. Okay, so our stuffing has been in the crock pot for about 4 hours, so it should be really completed and done. It's looking good. Nice steam coming off it, so we know that it's been cooked. So as you can see, since we've had the lid on the top of the crock pot, it's not going to brown. It's really just an environment where there's a continuation of moisture moving about, so we don't get the browning effect that the oven would give it with the dry heat. And that's why when you open it up, it probably looks the same. If you want to test the temperature, be brave, stick your finger in it, or get a thermometer and test it. There was no turkey environment in here, so you don't have to worry about food illnesses or anything, so it's really just hot enough for you to eat. If you'd like to see me prepare any other dishes, please send an email to request@Mahalodotcom, and in the meantime, check out all of our other awesome videos.